Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about the series premiere of Apple? I almost said Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus's The Mandalorian Star Wars series. Stick around and find out. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of The Mandalorian series premiere on Disney+. The synopsis on IMDb reads, after the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. So this is going to be after episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, before, or after 6, before 7. We follow the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. That the lone gunfighter thing is a good thing to put in the description, because basically this animal feels to me like a sci-fi western. It's about the dark underworld of bounty hunting. There's plenty of action, but also hints of sadness that are common in westerns, loneliness, people living in the shadow of great loss, that kind of thing. The Mandalorian, the character of the Mandalorian is not just about money as a bounty hunter. Through flashbacks, it appears that he was orphaned at an early age, and his bounty hunting now is in service to recovering some sense of his identity, either from his forgotten past or in his new life in Mandalorian bounty hunter culture. There's no Jedi or Force stuff in the pilot, but the Mandalorian culture already shows hints of interesting depth, and so I'll be content to never see a lightsaber or a floating object throughout this entire series if that's the route that they want to go. As far as the cast goes, the character of the Mandalorian is stoic. He always wears a mask. He's played by Pedro Pascal, who I know from a number of roles. He often plays bad guys and other types of supporting characters. I know him from one recent movie, especially called Prospect, which is a movie that I really enjoyed last year. And he isn't offering, this charismatic performance, especially when his face is, covered the whole time. But the flat subtlety in his performance, and with the constraints of the mask, requires me to try and read between the lines in a way that, the net result is that it works for me. I'm interested still in this character. Other actors are all solid, I think, and they bring more groundedness to their performances than I would expect from a Star Wars movie, which is just going to usually be lighter fare. I mean, these movies are not typically known for their high caliber acting, and sometimes it can just be a little bit overdone or a little overly simplistic, and I felt like this is a series that is going to have room for maybe a little bit of that emotional groundedness of, say, like a Battlestar Galactica or something. We'll see, but I definitely have reason to hope for something a little more in that direction. As far as the stunts and just the visuals and what this thing looks like, I would say it's among the best premium TV shows in terms of its production quality. The CG creatures look movie quality, which, for my cursed eye still looks like CG, but there is a difference, in how cartoony some CG looks to me than others. And they also use a lot of practical puppets for creatures and makeup effects that will have animatronics to, move the lips or something like that when it's a really, strangely shaped kind of head type situation. Or just other animatronic elements in the puppets and stuff. It's really just the blend I want, It's their philosophy seemed to be like, if we can do it practical, let's do it practical. But if it's like a big, crazy, moving monster, then let's do that CG, And they were using their budget sparingly. I could tell they would show a monster, in a really glorifying shot for that monster, and then they would just kind of have indications of the monster moving around, because the ship is shaking and getting bumped around, but they wouldn't actually cut to the monster. And so you could see the budget, but I prefer to see the budget that way, where we go quality over quantity. Don't show me the monster so much, just give me, one or two brief, really great looking shots, and then cheat in other methods, instead of showing me more CG that you have to develop in a short period of time. The lighting in general on each of the sets and the scenes, it has a darker look, similar to what we've seen, I think, more of in the recent Star Wars movies. And the costumes here are true, I think, to the classic trilogy, but they have more detail in their wear and tear. Again, like what we've seen in the in episodes 7 and 8. And so it makes the world to me feel like it had a yesterday that everybody lived through and still has the scuffs and marks from, you know. I did see one wipe transition going from one scene to the next, those classic wipe transitions from the Star Wars movies. But otherwise, the film tools that were used here are unlike a lot of the film tools that Star Wars typically uses, you know, like slow motion or a flashback sequence. These things that we take for granted that are rarely or in some cases never seen in Star Wars movies, you know, are used much more obviously and frequently here. And that's really encouraging to me too. You know, if you were to go back and watch my review for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, I believe it was in that video that I said, at this point, man, I can't wait for this current trilogy, 7, 8, 9, to be done so we can be free of this storyline, of the Skywalker family, of any feeling to kind of recreate the vibes of earlier Star Wars movies, and just let this franchise explore different tones, go in different directions, give, you know, a different feel to it. And with the help, I think, of the Star Wars movies going a little bit darker in their production style, I think we are now stepping into that territory as the trilogy comes to a close and as these these TV series about Star Wars get off the ground. Obi-Wan Kenobi coming in like 2021, I think. I think we are now arriving at that place where I wanted Force Awakens to be right off the bat, where we can, have the same world, the same depth of the lore and all the things that inhabit this world, all the strange truths that are true of this, fictional world, but we can tell those stories with a different stylistic vibe and with a different tone. So that is very, very cool to see that coming about. Speaking of which, the music was a part of that in this episode. There were orchestral tracks that were clearly inspired by the classic films, but like the more modern Star Wars movies, they add some modern sensibilities to them in terms of how they're composed. But more noticeably, I think, are the edgy electronic tracks that are used instead of orchestra in some scenes that really show that they are freeing this series up from the stylistic trappings of the movies that came before, so that it can have its own stylistic identity, and that is very, very, very cool to me. As far as like themes that might bring about some worthwhile thought or conversation, nothing really stood out to me, though I suspect that issues of identity and loss might play into the series in future episodes as the Mandalorian deals with his tragic past and also kind of affirms his identity or seeks out a sense of identity through the bounty hunter culture that he's now enmeshed in. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Pater! Okay, skip this one for now. I mean, after all, you are not especially a big fan of Star Wars these days, although you're grateful for what it brought and how it influenced fiction in general. These days, the Star Wars universe in particular doesn't stand out to you as anything, much more exciting that you have to have compared to Battlestar Galactica or certainly Farscape, which you'd like a lot more of. And this pilot has a 40-minute runtime, pretty short, and didn't, in that time, give you quite enough story or character development to feel enticed to stick around and pay the subscription. So you'll probably buy this on Blu-ray and enjoy it then, and save a little money that way as well. So just go that route. This does not have an MPAA rating. I would describe it as PG-13-ish for violence. Definitely a little bit on the darker side, but no darker than the recent Star Wars movies. All right, those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected and share with other people. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening.